Dragons will rule the Seven Kingdoms for the next 100 years.
Everything that House Targaryen possesses is owed to it.
They are restless and chaotic.
Without them, we're just like everyone else.
This infighting must cease! The dragon's saddle is one thing. The Iron Throne is the most dangerous seat in the realm.
What is up, everybody? My name is Jeremy, and welcome to the channel. House of the Dragon is just around the corner now, and HBO has really been amping up the amount of new footage and behind-the-scenes content in anticipation of the premiere this Sunday. We recently got a nice, in-depth look at 5 of the main characters that we're going to be meeting in Season 1, complete with new footage and behind-the-scenes interviews with the actors. So without further ado, let's dive right in.
When I look at the fine knights in these lists, I see a group without equal. May the luck of the Seven shine upon all combatants!
First up, we have Viserys the First Targaryen, played by Paddy Considine. Paddy goes on to talk about how Viserys is a young man when we first meet him, and how he inherited the throne from King Jaehaerys I, who was a peacetime king that ruled for well over 50 years during what is considered to be one of the most prosperous times in Westeros history, and how Viserys feels a duty to honor that. I imagine Viserys feels a great deal of pressure to make sure House Targaryen continues to prosper under his rule as well as it did under Jaehaerys'. He explains how Viserys struggles with being king and constantly trying to please everybody, and describes it as an impossible task. He then goes on to talk about how Viserys is aware of just how dangerous it is to sit on the Iron Throne, and how it essentially makes you a target for everyone that's trying to scheme and scam to get that seat. And he constantly tries to instill that in his daughter Rhaenyra, as he feels that she has the potential to be a great ruler. He then goes on to say some very interesting things about the dragons, and how the idea that the Targaryens can control the dragons is an illusion, as he puts it. I think Viserys sees the dragons as a mean to an end, and the end being keeping control of Westeros and keeping the Targaryens in power. He believes the Targaryens wouldn't be the power that they are if they didn't have dragons, and understands that the people fear them because of that power. Overall, I think Paddy is bringing some really interesting new depths to the character of Viserys, depths that we didn't really get in the book of Fire and Blood. And I believe even George is very impressed with Paddy's performance and seeing all the new ways that he's brought the character to life. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'm a big fan of Paddy Considine. He is a phenomenal actor in just about every role that I've seen him in. So I'm looking forward to seeing him bring Viserys to life, a character that we relatively don't know a whole lot about in Fire and Blood. And I think he's going to bring a whole new dynamic to the character that's just going to make him a really big fan favorite.
I have only ever defended you!
10 years you've been king, and yet not once have you asked me to be your hand.
Why would I do that?
Because I'm your brother.
Up next we have Damon Targaryen, played to perfection by Matt Smith. His segment opens up with some all-new footage of Damon and Viserys in the throne room arguing back and forth about how in over 10 years, not once has Viserys asked Damon to be his hand, and you can tell Damon definitely feels a little slighted by that, seeing as they're brothers. It then cuts to Matt Smith giving us some information on his character and his motivations, and how Damon is very much an outsider of House Targaryen, and describes him as all swords and knives, but he definitely still has a great deal of love and admiration for his brother Viserys, but also describes that there is a deep, dark history between the two. He talks about how Damon is interested in chaos, and how he survives in chaos quite well, and talks about how Damon doesn't necessarily want to be king or anything like that, and how he's just really pretending to make everyone angry, which definitely kind of fits the character of Damon. He is definitely an agent of chaos in the books. He's one of those morally gray characters. You never know what he's going to do. He's capable of anything, really. In the books, I always got a sense that Damon was the type of character that would probably really enjoy the act of winning the throne, but then the act of actually being king and having to rule over everything, I just have a feeling something like that would probably bore Damon after a while. He doesn't seem like he would particularly make the best king in the long run. Similar to how Robert Baratheon really enjoyed winning the throne, but definitely did not like sitting the throne and really became a lousy king in the end. The segment then ends with Matt Smith talking about how House of the Dragon sort of feels like one big tragedy, constantly waiting for things to get worse. And boy, is he right.
Rhaenyra Targaryen, heir to the Iron Throne.
Up next we have Rhaenyra Targaryen, played by Emma D'Arcy. The clip opens up with Emma saying how this is the first time she's ever shared a role with another actor before, and how even when they're not watching each other perform, they're definitely very much building something together, and judging by that, what we've seen so far from both Millie and Emma, they definitely seem to be bringing young and old Rhaenyra to life quite well. Emma goes on to describe how giant the show is and how it stays grounded at the same time, and really praises a beautifully written script. I think it's going to be very interesting seeing two different actors playing the same role over different points in that character's life. Rhaenyra is going to have many ups and downs throughout this series that I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I think Emma and Millie both will have something very interesting to add to the character overall. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out on screen, and how both of the actresses make their approach to playing the same character.
We shot both of Mysaaria's episode 1 scenes. I remember just feeling completely like, oh my god, I'm in Game of Thrones.
Up next we have Lady Mysaria, aka Lady Misery, played by Sonoya Manuzzo. Mysaria is a very intriguing character that will have some very important parts on House of the Dragon. The best way I could describe Mysaria is probably a cross between Melisandre and Varys, as she's both rumored to dabble in magic and becomes the kind of unofficial Master of Whisperers at some point during the series. The same position that Varys played on the original Game of Thrones. Sonoya describes Mysaria as a fighter and a survivor, and someone who is very street smart due to her having a very difficult upbringing. It then cuts to some all-new footage as what appears to be on Dragonstone, with Mysaria talking to Damon about how she isn't interested in gold or power or anything like that, but she came to Damon looking to be liberated. She describes her relationship with Damon and how it's special because she's one of the few that doesn't fear Damon like everyone else does, and how they kind of just get each other on a very deep level. She also talks about it being seductive in a way, being that close to power, which I imagine isn't something that she had much of growing up in the past. Sonoya goes on to describe how they're creating something new that has a depth that we wouldn't expect, and how excited she is to see what people think. And I'm looking forward to seeing her performance overall. Lady Misery is a very intriguing character, one that we don't know a whole lot about. Definitely don't know a whole lot about her origins, other than the fact that we know that she comes from Lys. And other than that, I'm looking forward to see what she brings to the character. Like I said, all of the Fire and Blood characters don't have a whole lot of backstory, as it's not told in POVs, and there aren't really a whole lot of dialogue in that book. So I'm really looking forward to all of the backstory and seeing these characters get fleshed out a little bit more that didn't really happen in the books.
I really couldn't say.
Kristen Cole is a lowborn knight who started as the steward to the Lord of Blackhaven and ends up becoming someone with a great deal of power, but not a lot of knowledge as to how to use that power.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Sir Kristen Cole, played by Fabian Frankel. Kristen Cole is another very interesting character that I think will be a heavy fan favorite in Season 1. His segment starts off with Fabian explaining the character and how he starts off as a very low-born knight who ends up coming into a great deal of power, but is someone that doesn't necessarily have the knowledge on how to use that power. He talks about trying to make something of himself in a world that really values a family name and connections, and how he has neither, and points to the fact that if he wants to make it, he's going to have to rely on his hard work and his skill as a fighter. He talks about stepping into the role of Kristen Cole and how the armor in particular helped him assume a certain posture that was very helpful for developing the character of Kristen Cole. And he does look pretty badass as Kristen, I must say. The armor looks good. The whole cast looks really good. Everything is really, really stepped up. Not that it didn't look good on Game of Thrones, but they really stepped it up here on House of the Dragon to make everything look that much more book accurate, and I love that. I think that the rivalry between him and Damon is going to be particularly interesting for fans, and it's going to be fun to watch play out. Those two have a great deal of awesome scenes to get through together. It's going to be really intense. Overall, this was a nice little insight into some of the main characters that we'll be meeting during the first season of House of the Dragon, which is just around the corner now, a mere days away. And we'll be doing live reviews after every episode, along with tons of other House of the Dragon content. So be sure to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads. And as always, thank you everybody for watching. We will see you on the next one.
The threat of war looms.
My brother wishes to provoke me.
You should take his place on the throne.
We will return the House of the Dragon to its proper glory.